Where do you rank Jake Paul's performance as far as from his past wins? Where do you rank it?
Well, I actually commentated his last fight, right? So at that time, I didn't know I can go from commentating the fight with Fury to being working for strength conditioning. But in comparison to that particular fight, it was night and day. He was so much better this fight than he was that fight. It's amazing how shifting a few things in your life can change things for you. No matter how big or how small, they can make a big difference. And I always say this: you got a guy who has no amateur career, fighting his first 10 fights on the biggest stage ever, and having to learn how to grow and develop into an elite fighter.
Wow.
Most boxers already have anywhere between 75 and 300 amateur fights before they even get to their first professional fight. So for him to come in with no amateur experience and being able to grow in front of us and develop the way he's doing it in front of us, it's a huge testament to his commitment and his ability and his drive to be great. So I applaud him.
Well, you speaking as a coach, right?
Right.
You look at people's attributes, their abilities, their capabilities. As you mentioned, he may have not had the amateur experience or the pedigree, but there's some sort of athleticism there, right?
Absolutely.
As an athlete. What are you most impressed with as far as when you look at his stature, getting him from point A to point Z? What are you most impressed with?
Well, I've been in the game at over 10 years at the highest level. I got 14 world champions at this point. And I always compare every athlete to those guys who won belts. And when it comes down to his athleticism, when it comes down to his commitment, he's right up there with the best, with the top champions. So he's definitely put in that effort, and he doesn't back down. He doesn't quit. He doesn't complain. So when you get a guy that's willing to put forth that effort, how do you not support that? One of the things that made me decide to join his camp was he asked me two things. One, not to lie to him, always tell him the truth. And two, this was the big part. He said two, he said, I want to be world champion. And when he told me that initially, I took a step back. I was like, this kid's serious.
Yep.
And when he told me when I could tell that he was serious, I said, why wouldn't I want to be part of this? Absolutely.
Wow.
And that's what made me buy into it. So let's do it.
Well, how do you know when to turn it up and when to turn it off? I mean, when you speak, hey, I want to be a world champion, obviously there's levels and there's
But
progression.
Of course, there's steps, correct.
Yeah.
Like anyone else, I always say when I train a guy, I do evaluations first. And the way you train a guy who's had 10 years of amateur experience and has 10 years of strength conditioning experience is different than the guy who only has 1 year of strength conditioning experience. So you can't train those guys the same. You have to train them differently. And so when I do my evaluation with this guy or any guys, I take that consideration based on how they perform in evaluation to tell me what I can do and what I need to do to prepare them for that next fight, whether it be 8 weeks from now, 8 months from now. And that's how I create. So you really dial it up based on the availability of time and where their growth is.
My last question to you, obviously, there's a lot of different strength and conditioning coaches,
Yes,
not only in
a lot of
boxing,
those,
MMA, NFL, things as such.
Yeah.
What makes you different as far as from everyone else?
I think that the key thing, there's two major things. One, I actually have a way of testing to see if a guy is fit enough or prepared, where a lot of trainers just put you right in the gym and they just start going. They start, we're going to lift, we're going to do runs, we're going to do this. But they don't really have a way of testing to
Measuring
see
it, yeah.
how a guy is going to be in shape, how long it's going to take to get a guy in shape. That's one thing. And I think the other part is something that Sean Porter has said about me for years. He said Coach Wade has good workouts, but what makes him special, he can make us feel like this, we can do anything we want to do. So I feel like my ability to be a motivator and a positive impact for these guys mentally helps them tremendously as well. So those are the two major attributes I would have to say that make me different.
Appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.